Nerd could rise up. It could get elevated. Nerd could rise up. It could get elevated.
Spider-Man, doing things a spider can. Doing podcast is his thing.
He's a Sony property and not in phase one.
Jerk. Way to ruin my song. Well, as you can see, Kyle already ruined it for me. So welcome to Every Man's Guide to Nerddom, where we're two 30 to 40-something-year-olds who talk about pretty much whatever we want. I'm Chris.
I'm Kyle. And you guys might know us online as Guyver and K-Sig or Bronco is another name that I also go by.
Well, today, if you haven't figured out what we're talking about, well, before we do that, let's get to our special guest, Mr. Brandon, or Mr. the legendary B-Rob, as we call him.
I'm not going to be able to call you Brandon, so you're going to be B-Rob.
Most people can't, unfortunately.
It's so hard.
So we'll call you whatever you want. He is the he's the crusher of the Christmas sweater. If you didn't,
you put up a heck of a fight, man. So I think this is an ongoing deal.
It is. I think it is going to be, because my wife got really mad at how many that I already have because it's taking up too much closet space. She goes, "Are you going to keep this going?" I go, "Yes." I go, "B-Rob, look, he's challenging me directly right now." I go, "I've got to get more."
That was the highlight of my
we
holidays.
can send her and my wife out for drinks. So because I get the same chastising about having a shirt or sweater for every day from basically Thanksgiving on to Christmas Day.
So B-Rob and I had the most epic of battles. Like what started out as just a friendly, "Hey, look what I got," Christmas sweater. Because this year I decided, you know what, I'm going to be the sweater guy at work because why the hell not? It's 2020. Why not? This makes me happy. I'm going to be sweater guy. So people will go by, I walk by, they go, "That's sweater guy." And then I'm like, "Oh, I've got some nerd ones." And then B-Rob, he gives me this message. He goes, "Hey, look what I got." And he's just pointing. It went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth with nerdy Christmas sweaters, non-nerdy. Like it was just fun. We might have to post this next year, like for a bigger audience. But it was a fun battle. It honestly, it was the highlight of my Christmas time.
Watching you guys,
I think that's what a lot of.
Yeah, you guys go at it was the highlight of my Christmas times. I just would check Facebook every day, like, ooh, I wanted to watch the battle, and I was a little late. I only had like 2 sweaters, so like I can't get in on this, but I'll watch these guys go at it. And I think B-Rob won, honestly.
I think you're about to be kicked out of this chat here, fella.
You're going to replace me with the guy that beat you
That
in
was
the
the cool thing.
Oh.
That's deep.
I mean, that was just the cool thing, man. During that time, it was something on our friends' feeds that wasn't COVID related. It wasn't political. It wasn't even like OUOSU, trash talk. It was just something new and fresh. And, there were so many comments just about putting a smile on somebody's face. That's what all this nerddom stuff to me is about anyway. So
thank you. That is a great statement, I think. What kind of the whole spirit of what our podcast is about. Yeah. It's putting a smile. What puts a smile on your face? Who cares what other people think? As long as it puts a smile on your face, that's what this is about. And if we can help you find something to broaden your horizons that you didn't know, then we've done our job.
Yeah.
Even if we got to kick Kyle out of chat for being a jerk.
Whatever, I got beer. I'll just settle in back in there.
Okay, so Brandon, why don't you tell us, or B-Rob, how did you get? We'll go with whatever. What do you want to be called for this?
We're all friends here. I think B-Rob is fine. It's just funny, you go to college and all of a sudden you lose your name and it's 4 letters and a hyphen. So.
Well,
I didn't know you.
It could be worse.
Or an apostrophe, however you want to do it.
Yeah, just Brob.
That'd be classy, Kyle.
Brob.
Yeah, Brob.
Brob. We're gonna kind of switch up our talking points a little bit here. How did you start your nerddom? Like, what makes you a nerd, and how did you get into what you do?
And I think, I just really growing up, I loved, GI Joe and Thundercats and He Man and just all those '80s toy lines and the TV shows that we grew up on, and of course I played a lot of sports and stuff like that. So that was kind of always there wasn't a whole lot of common traits with a lot of people I played sport. They didn't like that kind of stuff that much.
Right.
We weren't talking about it. So I feel like that, like you guys talked about. I mean, I feel like I think in your first episode when you were asking like what is a nerd, I feel like it's just anybody who has a passion for something that just isn't mainstream. So those were really some of the things I really enjoyed, and then that kind of got me into liking the X-Men. That was probably the first comic line I really started liking, because I wasn't a traditional, like, I didn't really like the goody two shoes superheroes. So I wasn't like a Superman guy, and honestly, I wasn't a big Cyclops fan as far as the X-Men goes. I liked kind of the anti-hero, the Wolverine, Gambit, Rogue, and then of course that led me to my favorite, Deadpool. But it just kind of evolved from there, and I started, working. I'm from a little small town. I started picking up jobs in other towns there was just some like-minded people I worked with that like comics, and they started getting me into just different things. So that's really where that went. I've always been a Star Wars guy. So those are just some of the things I've always liked. So it's just grown from there.
Which is awesome. It's the three of us, if you all haven't picked up yet, have known each other since college. So we've known each other a long time. And it's just amazing the stuff you find out. You think you know someone, and then, down the line, you find out even more, which makes you like that person a lot more. Like I've always thought really highly of these two, even Kyle. Take a drink. Even Kyle. But the older we're getting, the more I'm finding out, we share a lot more than I thought we did. And it's just awesome to be able to talk to some buddies about the same kind of stuff, because, you've got your friends from 20, 30 years ago, and there's stuff you can talk to them about, but where the limit is. Like, I've got some of my friends who were the jocks, and they've never been into the comics. They don't want to talk comics at all. But then you've got other people you can talk to just about anything. And that's kind of like these two right here for me. So it's just really cool. Well, if you haven't guessed what today's episode is, since we've gone off on these two tangents already, it's about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in particular, or the MCU. We're targeting just certain aspects of it.
Yeah. So we're going to, like Chris said, focus mainly on the cinematic universe, the MCU. I mean, Marvel's huge. You have comics, toys, TV shows, but the movies are what's big right now. It's been big for the last several years, and that's what we're going to target on today. And because the breadth of the MCU is so huge, we're going to focus on actually just on Phase 1 today, and maybe be able to get all of Phase 1 in today. I kind of have my doubts. There's just so much to cover. We'll probably be covering a lot of different topics as we go through this. So Phase 1 may take us a couple of episodes, which is fine because we got all the time in the damn world. So
we do, and it's going to be fun to talk about. Yeah. And like Kyle was saying, it's just depending on how long we talk. Just as I was typing out these talking points, I was just sitting here shaking my head the whole time going, there's no way in hell we're getting through this in one episode. And there's 6 movies in Phase 1. I only got through 3 on these talking points because I don't think we're going to be able to I think we're going to be lucky if we get through 3 on this first part of this.
Yeah.
Now, this is going to be the same. This could be the exact same format as the rest of the phases, Phase 2, 3, and 4. Cool. Yeah, that means you get to listen to us talk more.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, we're going to have other episodes of other stuff.
4 might not be as long, but yeah.
4 might not, but we say that, but we started 4 already, and it was almost an hour.
By the time we get to Phase 4, we may have there may already be a lot out there. But yeah, with Phase 4 just kicking off, that'll be a lot of speculation and what we're we see from the information that's already been released out, like the game plan, the timeline, what Marvel's already planning on doing. Then a lot of our projections, which will probably be extremely accurate if I have to guess anything.
We are geniuses.
Mhm.
That's what I write on my name tags. I don't know. It is really important to note, though, like Kyle was saying, Phase 4 has begun. What's different about Phase 4 is traditionally Marvel's phases have kicked off in movies.
Right.
They've always been in movies. This one did not because of this damn little thing called COVID-19. It was supposed to have kicked off with the Black Widow movie. That was supposed to be the start of Phase 4. That was supposed to have been, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, I think May 5th, give or take. But then with the lockdowns happening in March and everything that happened, it got kicked back. We were supposed to have the Eternals movie as well by now. That was supposed to have been in November. That was supposed to be the second movie in Phase 4. We did not get that. That's still being held by Marvel. So what the official start of Phase 4 is for Marvel is the first original television show by them, which is WandaVision. That is the start of Phase 4. This is going to lead straight into one of the movies. So you've got a little bit of background on this now, so you're not going to be confused if we reference Phase 4 and how it started. So if you guys do have any questions, we've got email, we've got, we'll have links to our Twitter accounts. We have a Facebook page. You guys can always post Discord server.
Yeah.
Go post it in the Discord server. We'll try our best to answer it.
Yep.
I'm pretty. If we don't know the answer,
yeah, we're pretty active in the Discord server, and plus in there you got a lot of people that just basically live on Discord, and we'll have things for this along with all the other little subtopics and genres and things that we covered outside of whatever the topic of the week is. So we've got to set up for different channels for different communities and things in there that you can cross over and talk to people on. So.
Right. And I promise the next Nerky will actually be a Nerky and it won't be an hour. We had 2 episodes to talk about. So we'll learn.
We've learned. We'll shorten it down.
We'll shorten it a little bit. And then now I'm looking at this. Kyle, don't we have a new sponsor again this week?
We do. Well, a new-ish sponsor. So we had newish sponsor. You guys may remember Harry was a sponsor of a few episodes back with Harry's Bighorn Mounting, and he seemed to expand his horizons. So he sent over a new little blurb for us this week, and you guys go check Harry out. Give him a little bit of business. He believes in the show, and I think we believe in him.
So without further ado, here's the commercial.
Hey, Horny Harry here. My business of Horny Harry's Big Game Horn Mountain has gone so well it's allowing me to expand. Have you ever watched Walker, Texas Ranger and thought, man, it's really not fair that car on the show has horns and mine doesn't? Well, first take it by Horny Harry's Big Game Horn Mountain and we can fix that. Then go next door to Horny Harry's Hand-On Car Wash. No one can clean the horn better than our professionally trained staff. They'll make sure to professionally hand wash your horns and car with the best of care. Choose from our convenient menu of services. If you want a gentle hand wash, we can do it. If you like it more rough, we can do it. If you want us to take the chrome off your bumper, we can do that too. We even got a secret menu where you can ask for the Happy Horning. If you like any of that, come on down, cowboy. Happy Horning not available in all states. Please consult with a mechanic if your paint experience is mild flaking, bumper droops, and you might not be able to get back up.
Wow, that was awesome. I can't believe Harry's branching out like that. Business must be really good. B-Rob, have you ever used Horny Harry's big game mounting service?
Yeah, I actually have. Me and my brother went on a trip, and we're very fortunate in our travels there. And Harry was really efficient, really affordable. He just did a great job, and couldn't speak more highly of him.
He does handle those ones with care. Yeah, I mean, great
Harry,
man.
we salute you. We salute you, sir. All right, so Kyle, I think you have something you wanted to start discussing on with
Yeah.
Phase 1, right?
Yeah, well, we kind of sort of talked about that a little bit, but there's no official TV shows that fall in the time frame of Phase 1 that I know of, that you know of. And that's the kind of sets it apart from some of the subsequent phases. I think Agents of Shield, Peggy those are Phase 2. Unless I'm wrong there, but there's
I don't know. That's my question. Like, B-Rob, do you know? Were those
Yeah,
Phase
it's got to
2
be
or Phase 1?
It's got to be Phase 2 because it's got to be after the first Avengers because they brought Coulson back.
See, that's what I was thinking too. Oh, and if you guys haven't watched any of these, you're super behind in the times. Where have you been living? Because this is, it's been this has gone through 3 decades now. Of Marvel. So yeah,
I want to do it that way. Yeah.
What I've got that'll be my what I learned. I found out something really cool. But yeah, there's going to be spoilers. If you didn't know, there's going to be spoilers. We're going to give you some Easter eggs. We're going to give you just some stuff to think about. So again, if you haven't seen any of these, do yourself a favor, go watch them. And after you listen to this, we're going to already spoil it for you. So just act surprised. Okay. So let's see. B-Rob, do you know what 6 movies were in Phase 1? They don't have to be in order.
Right. Yeah, I believe so. With Iron Man starting it all.
Yes, sir. So the first one was Iron Man. What was number 2?
Was Edward Norton's Hulk?
Yes, sir.
Like he calls it Edward Norton's Hulk because that was.
Well, it's true. We're going to discuss that too because Ang Lee's Hulk pissed me off. Number 3.
Thor?
Nope.
No.
Nope. You're close.
You gave him no particular order.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. Okay. So Thor is in there. Yes. Thor is in there.
The first Avenger, Captain America.
Yep.
The Avengers.
Yes.
So that's 5, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then Iron Man 2. Did that fall?
Yep. Iron Man 2.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So I was actually surprised by Iron Man 2 because I couldn't remember where it fell into the order of it.
I guess I always thought the right place to end it would have been Avengers, and then that would start. So that was always kind of strange to me too, and just kind of that end scene with in Edward Norton's Hulk that with Robert Downey Jr. I guess I always kind of forget that wasn't the first one, and it was Iron Man. So it does get kind of confusing.
And they both came out the same year too.
Yeah. So. And we'll go over when we go over each movie, we'll go over the years. So in order, it was Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, The First Avenger, and Marvel's The Avengers. So in that order was the order that they came out with. And so let's start with Iron Man. For those of you who are watching, got my Iron Man shirt with a lot of the different variants on there.
You got all the Iron Mans on there.
I got the Iron Men's.
Covered in Iron Mans.
I'm covered in Iron Men's. And we all know it's not the triathlon. So we'll start with Iron Man. That came out on May 2nd, 2008. Anyone know who directed it?
Jon Favreau.
Yep.
Favreau, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's start with Jon Favreau. What did you guys know him from before Iron Man?
Swingers is what I always think of.
That's the only thing I could remember him from.
I can't even think of anything before that.
And that's kind of it for me. Like I remembered him from Swingers. That was completely.
I remember him being in Rudy. But I had to go back and he was his college buddy. That was always cheering him on in the stands.
He was, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
But then I think everything else I can think of him being in was like way after the fact, like Couples Retreat, the Paul Rudd, Jason Segel movie, where he's Jamie Presley's husband. I can't remember the name of that movie now to save my life, but
I know what you're talking about.
yeah. But now he was like just kind of always a good actor. He's in a lot of things I like, but as a director, he is just phenomenal.
Yeah, so it's kind of going
He
back
is
and
second to none.
looking like there wasn't much before Iron Man as far as him like actually being in it. Everything else saw.
Made was another one with Vince Vaughn.
Yeah,
that's another one that I remember he was in.
Like 2001.
Made.
Which one was that?
Oh, where they go back and they're like small time. Oh, not crooks, but trying to get money out of people. I think Pete Diddy or Puff Daddy, or maybe it was just Sean Combs at the time was in it. I don't remember. But yeah, that was right around, I think, the Swingers time.
That's right. Okay, I know which one you're talking about. John has this gift for this nerd stuff.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And I think pretty much that's kind of a universal opinion for a lot of people in the nerd circle, is that he has this gift of storytelling and being able to bring what we love to life, because he loves the same stuff, which is, I think that's what you have to understand the source material to bring these to life, to be able to talk to the fanboys, to be able to talk to the fangirls. If you don't have that, I think your movie is going to be destined to fail. That's just completely my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the Marvel Cinematic Universe treads water and makes it as long as it did without him starting off so strong with Iron Man. I can't think of another actor / director that, as I look at other bodies of work of his, from his other Marvel movies to now The Mandalorian, that I think could have really pulled it off on such a big scale.
I agree. I completely agree. He just, seriously, he's got a gift is what it is. That's the only thing you can really say. And he's super talented at it.
Yeah.
John, if you're listening, in the offshoot that you're listening,
I'm sure
if you want to be on the show, we'll let you.
We will.
I'm sure he is too.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
We'll let you be on the show.
What's up, John?
I'd even buy you a beer and lunch. So
hey,
it's on me, buddy.
See, you heard it, John. Please be on the show.
Please be on the show. I mean, we know he's out there listening. But yeah, I mean, Iron Man was just a kicking point. Now just kind of thinking about all that, like without Iron Man and without his touch on Iron Man, how well he did with it. Like, would we have the version of the Mandalorian that we just freaking love now? Would we have, the what else is he doing? He's doing the Book of Boba Fett. He's doing Rangers of the New Republic. Like, would we have?
He's doing all Ahsoka.
Doing Ahsoka. And so,
he has his hands in every one of the new Star Wars things,
which is amazing. Like, I mean,
God.
I'll still say that, like, The Mandalorian is some of the best Star Wars out there, out of everything.
Oh, I agree. It brings me back to A New Hope, like the whole space western. It is the closest thing to A New Hope that I think that has been made through the entire Star Wars. I know we're getting off here, but it's the whole Star Wars universe. I mean, it is the storytelling, the characters. It's just awesome. It's amazing to me.
Again, if you guys have listened to our first show, we're gonna get off topic, and we'll eventually. This is why we have talking points. We'll eventually get back to it.
Yeah.
But damn it, it's our show, and we're gonna talk about whatever the hell we want.
We're old. We forget shit.
Right now, we want to talk about Star Wars. What? Who? What? What?
Yeah, we'll round back to it. It's all connected, though. That's the thing.
It really is. So if he wouldn't have done so well at Iron Man, I don't think he would have had. We know Disney is notoriously tight on how, you stick to source material. This is how we want it done. This is the Disney way. This is how you need to do it. And which it's one of those, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Disney's wildly successful. There's a reason they're one of the top companies in the world. If he wouldn't have done so well at Iron Man, I don't think that he would have the liberties that he has now for all these Star Wars projects. I think this is why they gave him such a big budget for this. This is why they're saying, you know what? You got a good track record, you run with it. And everything he's touched for them has been gold.
Yeah.
I truly think that our children are really going to be talking about him like we talk about Spielberg, and just the movies that he made that really made a impact on our lives. I mean, I think you start naming movies from our childhood that we really were into. I think several of them are going to be Spielberg or probably George Lucas.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's what our kids, they may not, really latch onto that till later, remember the guy's name, but they're gonna be like, I like this movie. I love this movie. I would truly think that he's going to be like that.
I never thought of it that way, but I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. John is the Spielberg of our generation.
But, I think back, like you're just talking about, the movies from our time. Mine are Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and like Jurassic Park, or like the three that, bam, pop into my head of stuff that I loved as a kid, and going into teenagers. So I can see, like, especially I think my kids watching all the new Star Wars stuff and watching Avengers, all the MCU stuff, that they'll go back and look on that like we do those movies. I think you're absolutely right, B-Rob.
Yeah, I don't really know what else we can really say about that, but I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
I really do.
So I got a question before we dive off into.
Yeah. Go ahead.
If you had to okay, we're talking about phase one. Right. Out of phase one, before we start dissecting them, which one is your favorite?
Oh, that is a tough one, because for me, all of phase one, all these movies in phase one played an important part of my life. Like, I can remember good memories associated with each one of these. Like, I remember seeing the Avengers for the first time and just like screaming like a schoolgirl, hearing that opening theme, just because it's like the people I grew up reading about, here they are in live action. But that was the same for me with Iron Man. Like, Iron Man was never one of my, I had all the Iron Man comics, don't get me wrong, but he was never like, if I had to pick one Marvel character, he wouldn't be like in my top three. He was never a top three for me. Then going to the theater, seeing this first Iron Man movie, which was not the shitty 1984's Captain America, not the crappy Fantastic Fours that we've seen. They actually were true to the source material and made it great. I would have to say, out of phase one, I'm in between Iron Man and Avengers right now. And I'm almost going to say Iron Man, because that's what kicked it off for me. That's what just said, you know what? It's our time now. We're here. This is what's going to kick it off. And it's just amazing for me. So like I said, I'm in between the two, but I'm leaning more towards Iron Man just for that reason.
I think mine would be Iron Man and Thor. Iron Man, just the opening scene with just the visuals of it, the music, everything. Like, as soon as that hit, like, you knew, like, this, even if you weren't, into that at all, even if you weren't into like, that intro was able to suck anybody into that movie. If you were just an action movie guy and you knew absolutely zilch about comics or anything Marvel, if you knew nothing about it, you could watch that intro and you'd be sucked into that movie right then. And I think that first 10-15 minutes probably made a whole lot of new fans for Marvel, just from that intro sucking people in.
Yeah.
And then my second would be Thor, and it's Thor recently because I've started to the lore behind Thor has been really intriguing for me. I knew nothing about it until MCU came about. And so I've been really interested in Thor and Odin, and looking to how the Marvel universe pulled their influence from just the
true source
from the
material.
mythology. And so you had like
Yeah,
the mythology to Marvel comics to MCU stuff, and the mythology of it has always been interesting to me. I'm like a little partial to Odin and stuff because it's kind of where my last name comes from, actually. And so then seeing Thor and then diving into that whole universe was really, really interesting. So probably more so those two for me. Yes, my little guy, it's going to be anything with Hulk. He just loves Hulk. So
The Hulk.
yeah.
Most little kids do.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed. Like
Right.
Hulk is really big, especially with little boys. I think it's that destructive nature of little boys.
Yeah.
They just really identify with Hulk.
They're just ready to smash anything. And
Yeah.
which I guess would be true for, as you get older too, just right.
Wait. So
Hmm.
your last name is Sig, so that comes from Thor?
It does. It does.
Oh, is that what it is?
Wotan. Wotan is a alternate Germanic spelling and pronunciation of Odin. And so,
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. See, this is what I'm talking about. You know guys for years. You know your friends for years, and you still find out new stuff.
Yeah, you find out today that I'm the father of the god of thunder. It's cool,
And that's awesome. I always thought your last name meant a whale's vagina, but that's fine.
No, it's just whales. Spanish word.
So
I think it's cool that so my two that I said, I think it's going to be cool that all of us think that Iron Man is up there.
Mhm.
But for me, like Captain America, the First Avenger, I love the history part of it that they added in there. But I just the underdog, and I felt like the casting in that movie was so spot on.
Oh, 100%.
In all aspects, from the Commandos to Hugo Weaving as Red Skull, and Bucky Barnes, and then Cap himself. I just thought it was amazing. But then the Iron Man thing, Robert Downey Jr. is the perfect anti-hero.
Yeah.
The perfect, if you know the Iron Man Tony Stark background, recovering alcoholic. And that's kind of always what drew me to Iron Man as a kid, is growing up with alcoholism in my family, seeing that as a comic book character. And as a little kid, really, wow, maybe this is possible, just the redemption of it, I think is something that was big. So I think that's what always kind of drew me to Tony Stark. But, and again, I just go back to Iron Man kicking off and just really just knocking it out of the park and setting up the table for the Marvel Cinematic Universe to just destroy any other super DC across the board. Movie to movie.
So I've always said, and you guys, if you have a different point of view, that's cool. But Marvel has done everything right with the movies. They have the movies. DC has done everything right with television.
Agreed.
And that's the live action television, like Flash. I love the Flash TV show,
Yeah.
Arrow, Flash, to the animated movies, the direct to VODs. Like DC has that. Like if the two damn studios could talk, like maybe we could get good stuff on both ends.
Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of hopeful for Phase 4 with Marvel right now, because they're knocking it out of the park for me with WandaVision.
Well, I think the thing with Marvel is their casting. I can't really think of a single person that once you put them in that part, I'm like, oh yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, I can imagine this person play it. I can't say that about DC.
No.
Granted, DC scripts are the ones that kill it, even for the good actors like Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern. But the casting and on the Marvel side for the movies is amazing. From even to the Dave Bautista as Drax, and and
who would have thought that
Bradley Cooper and Vin Diesel, just their voices. It's amazing to me whoever is over the casting is just, they're spot on.
I agree. And what I really appreciate about Marvel is you have the same actors. If they're doing a TV show like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's the same actor. So it's not the what's his name, Urza Miller's and versus Grant.
Grant
So you don't have
Gustin.
you don't have two different Flashes. It's the same person. So that's what I really like. It just across the board, I like that.
You think if they would not have got Robert Downey Jr. to play Tony Stark in the first Iron Man, you think that was the kickoff to, because I mean, they can have the greatest casting person in the world with all the vision of, I want to bring these people in to play these parts, but he kind of set the precedence for, you know, a big name actor, even though he was coming off of his faults and his demons and everything like that, that if they would have cast any lesser known actor in the role for Tony Stark, that would have just kind of killed the whole thing down the road of being able to have all these big names coming in later, or these names that just fit the part perfectly. They did just such a good job of casting Tony Stark that made this property something that actors actually wanted to be involved in, not just because of the paycheck, not because we're going to get paid enough for it, but because, okay, yeah, this works, and we want to put our name on this now.
Right. B-Rep, go ahead.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, again, the Tony Stark character being about redemption and bringing in somebody that needed that to, you know, re-kick their career. And my favorite Robert Downey Jr. quote from back in the day was, you know, I'm allergic to alcohol and narcotics. I break out in handcuffs. That's one of my favorite quotes. And that's a Tony Stark thing. I mean, and
extremely
I think that,
Tony Stark.
If he couldn't read the source material and really become that character, I don't think it goes anywhere. I truly don't know anybody else that not only needed that in their life, but just took it and ran with it for decades. Even if it's bit cameos and things, or being Peter Parker's mentor or whatever, up until, you know, his last movie. It's an amazing thing to watch unfold.
And I totally agree with that statement. It's as cheesy as this is going to sound. He is Iron Man. He is. If they couldn't have picked a more perfect person, I always remember Robert Downey Jr. as the weird best friend in Back to School. With who was that? Rodney Dangerfield. Like, he was always the weird best friend of the son. That's how I remember him. The guy in Weird Science. But then when they cast Robert Downey Jr., like B-Rob was saying, Tony Stark, you know, is this arrogant, brilliant alcoholic with all these vices in the comic, and that's Robert Downey Jr. The man was born to play Tony Stark. So I completely agree with everything you guys just said. Doubling back or tripling back now. I can never pronounce his last name. It's either Feige or Fiji. Kevin Feige. He is the president of the MCU. He's the guy who pretty much got things kicked off for the MCU. What do you guys know about him? If anything. If you don't know anything, that's fine too.
I just learned how to say his last name. So that's really, I mean, I usually just clap my hand and say, yeah, go Kev. And that's about as far as I get.
So he's the guy who pretty much, so this doubles into our next talking point here with Jeremy Latcham. Jeremy Latcham was a childhood buddy of mine. We grew up, you know, kind of together. I was at his house a lot. I call his mom to this day. You know, we weren't like best friends, but we all were in the same group. Jeremy was the guy who became vice president of Marvel Studios. He was the guy with Kevin who launched Iron Man. He went through all phase 1, some of phase 2, I believe, too, before he branched off. But if these guys wouldn't have sat down and said, I think this is a good idea. I think we should try and do a comic book movie, except do it right. Let's hold it true to the source material. I don't think we'd be where we are today without that vision. With just two guys sitting down saying, here's what I want to do. And, and having, can you imagine the fight they had to do with Disney for that? Like, we're going to need a really big budget. Well, so I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I think that at that time, so when Iron Man came out, how far into was Dark Knight? Was the Dark Knight trilogy wrapped up at that point, or close to it?
Yeah,
I think that could have been a timing.
I think they were through their second.
That could have been a timing thing with, those movies were insanely popular and they were really well done.
Yep.
And so the only way you counter an awesome DC movie is if you have the rights to an awesome Marvel movie. And, I think the timing was great on it. I think it was smart to start with Iron Man. I mean, you have the same but completely different with Tony's, with Iron Man as you do Batman. With Tony Stark, you do with Bruce Wayne. You have the superhero without the superpowers, other than intellect and a shitload of money. And I think the timing of that, I don't think it was an accident that to start with an Iron Man movie with the popularity of the Dark Knight trilogy at the time. I think it's a super smart move and totally different tone to stand off, because the Dark Knight was freaking dark and gritty and
amazing.
And amazing. I still love those movies, but Iron Man was a little bit more, it still had its gritty moments. It still had its dark moments, but it was a lot more upbeat and more
family friendly.
More family friendly, more action, your stereotypical action movie oriented, which I just loved it. And so I think there was a timing thing there, obviously. And
I think that's the whole reason why they went with Iron Man, because Tony Stark and Bruce Wayne were so similar, but Tony Stark, the smartass.
Yeah,
that is the difference between him, and so there was more comedy, and that's the one thing I really think is different between DC and Marvel is comedy in DC movies tend to feel really forced, where it comes more natural in Marvel, even though there are some forced scenes for sure.
Yeah,
to get the non-fans buy-in and stuff. But yeah, no, I think that's it was the perfect time to launch that movie.
So just for everyone's reference, Batman Begins was 2005 and The Dark Knight was in 2008, the same year as Iron Man. Dark Knight Rises was 2012. That was the same year as Avengers. So I didn't even think of it that way, but I think you guys are absolutely right. That this is Marvel's answer to the Dark Knight trilogy to DC.
Yeah, because who do you really think, when you look at it, who is the leader of the Avengers? Is it Cap or is it Tony? When you guys think of it,
I think it's Tony.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, but Cap's the face.
Cap's the face and the motivational speaker you bring in to the quarterly meeting to really boost morale.
Right, and he's America's ass. That's America's ass.
Mm-hmm. He is.
That is America's ass.
But is that do we think like that because of the movies, or do we feel like that because of the source material? Because again, I feel like that is why Robert Downey Jr. was just the pivotal component of all this, and Iron Man, and why it was so important to have Tony become the leader in the movie franchise, because in my mind, Batman's the one that put together the Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I mean, it's those two things. So I think that's another common thread as we're talking all this out.
So they borrowed from each other so much between DC and Marvel, and you see, I mean,
you think
just a little bit.
Wade Wilson, Slade Wilson,
Thanos, Apocalypse, or Dark Side.
Yeah, there's a little bit going on there, but I mean, you kind of had to. And I just love how it started with Iron Man and started with Tony, and it in the way it ended. Like, it was perfect bookends to the whole series.
So, do you think that, I know we've kind of hit on this, but I'm just going to ask the direct question. Do you think another hero would have been able to kick off the MCU better than Iron Man? That's a tough one. Like, because I can think of some other like Marvel heroes that I love more than Iron Man. You know, like Wolverine's always been my favorite. But do I think he could have kicked it off? I don't think. I think Iron Man was the only choice they had to kick this off, because, like you were saying, Robert Downey was born to play that part.
Right. Well, and he was a fresh face, so I feel like if you did, it had to be a character that people hadn't seen or seen in a while,
right?
Hadn't been done, and I think that's another reason why it couldn't have been Cap, because Cap's movie wasn't as exciting. It didn't just bring you in.
No.
It helped push you forward, but you had to, I don't know a whole lot of people that just love the first Avenger that weren't like either huge Cap fans or history buffs, or huge Hugo Weaving fans, either from The Matrix or Lord of the Rings or whatever, that kind of carried that over. But Iron Man fans of that movie are just fans of that movie.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't think you could have. I don't think you could have kicked it off with Hulk. I really don't think you could have kicked it off with Cap. Maybe, possibly Thor, maybe, but I think the reason it works so well with Iron Man is going back to the whole Batman thing. We're already used to seeing the non-superpowered superhero and setting the stage for what was to come. This wasn't. It didn't start off as some fantastic universe with all these different worlds and all these different things coming up. It started off as a dude from Earth that used his intellect and leveraged his well-being to be able to become successful. And he was average, not average, but could have been anybody doing that. He wasn't born with any special powers. He wasn't born with any psychic or psionic abilities or anything. He was just a human, and I think that helps set the stage for everything to come, to make you kind of become a little bit more invested in the story itself, because they are there to protect Earth, and this is a normal everyday guy that's able to do the deed to lead and protect. And I think that's really what kind of helped anchor it in.
So that's actually a really good lead-in into what Iron Man's about. So Iron Man is the story of a arrogant millionaire who owns a company. The company happens to produce weapons of destruction, mass destruction, war weapons. He's a war dealer, is what he is. And his family's gotten very, very rich off of it. Well, he's also made a lot of enemies doing this. And so he is captured while doing this. And in the process of being captured, was it a grenade? Or was it an IED, like a shrapnel from the road?
It was like a mortar that hit, or something similar that hit.
Something hit
Stark on the side of it. And he saw that before.
I thought it was one. Was it one of the Jericho missiles?
Oh,
one of the ones they were testing originally?
Yes, I think it was. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch now. I should have done that before we started talking about it.
I should have it playing as we're talking.
Yeah. Then it'd just be us sitting here going.
It's like, is there a show going on? Yeah, not you guys talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
So he gets hit with one of his own creations, and it lodges a piece of metal that is inching towards his heart. He has to, he's captured by this terrorist cell, and he's with, was he a doctor? I believe he was a doctor, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Who he's captured with?
Yeah.
because Tony was more the mechanical engineer and this guy was the doctor. He knew what was going on. They created basically like the super magnet that kept the shrapnel from going any closer to his heart. And that was the beginnings of like the early signs of the arc reactor to stabilize Tony's heart. And this is this mirrored the comics very well. I mean, there were some changes that they made to modernize it, as well as make it more sensationalized for Hollywood. But it was pretty damn close to the source material.
So explain the source, like explain the source material a little bit more. Remember, like somebody like me that hasn't read the Iron Man comics.
Right.
I always assumed that it was. I always assumed that it was going to be close. I always assumed it was going to either be really close or it's going to be really far off, right? Because that's usually how Hollywood does it with their movies.
So it was pretty damn close. Like I said, there was a couple parts, and B-Rob, I'm sure you remember most of this too. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, because it's been years since I've read any of the source material. But some of the major differences were it wasn't that he gets hit by his own creation, if I remember right. It was he was captured and he needed a way to survive this, and that's the whole Iron Man. It wasn't the sudden change of heart, if I remember correctly. Am I wrong on that, B-Rob?
No, that's what I remember too.
So you guys may remember more than we do on this. Like I said, it's been years since I've read actually the origin stories of Iron Man. So feel free to post in the Discord. If we're wrong, just tell us we're wrong. Give us the answer.
Give us the actually. If there's an actually out there, throw it out there. Let us know, because
but
probably be wrong a lot. Fine with that.
My wife and children let me know I'm wrong all the time. And my friends, and my boss, and the policeman,
B-Rob,
you, B-Rob, the convenience store guy. Pretty much everyone I meet tells me I'm wrong.
So he can.
They're usually right about it. So
Chris can handle it
I'm
really
good
well
at knowing I'm wrong. Like when I found out that when I said I was a man and you guys told me otherwise, they're right.
Yeah.
I'm not really that much of a man. Again, little fists like little empanadas.
Beard's coming in better slowly, week by week. We're getting there.
We're getting there. But that was the major change to the source material that I remembered. And some of the stuff they pulled in from a couple different storylines to make the movie. And this didn't follow the comics all the way, because you got to remember, when did Iron Man comics? Was that 60s or 70s?
Late 60s, early 70s.
Okay. So, they kind of had to modernize it a lot, or else it would just be absolute shit. If you had like Tony Stark wearing bell bottoms and like the disco shirt.
But I think,
saying
if Robert Downey Jr. would have wore bell bottoms, that might have brought him back again.
Right.
Thank God for that not happening.
Right on that one.
I was kind of hoping Robert Downey Jr. was going to grow the ponytail and all. So
he still might.
Yeah,
he still might. He says he's done with Iron Man. I bet if the right numbers might let him come back. Because the rumored Chris Evans is supposed to be back.
You can never say never. It's like pro wrestling.
Yeah.
How many times has Mick Foley been
musicians?
back?
Alabama's on their like 40th farewell tour, so you never.
Alabama never goes away. Don't speak ill of Alabama.
I love it.
They keep forgetting to take their medication. So
you've heard me karaoke. That was our karaoke jam on Thursday night.
That was their shoulder to shoulder with you on it.
So
like Bruce coming back. Anyway, okay, so
that's the start of Iron Man, and then from there, it's a story like B-Rob was saying. It's a story of redemption. Tony gets picked up. He basically, let's rewind. They build a suit of armor out of the primitive machines that they have. I think they were using like a Tandy or a Commodore 64 or something to program the suit on. And it was the most crude suit you can ever see. And that was the Mark I, I believe. Iron Man armor. All his armors, if it's an Iron Man armor, it's the Mark series. Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, Mark 42. And each one represents a different build of the armor. I believe that was Mark 1. Basically, he sees this whole cache of missiles, all these guns with the Stark name on them as he's breaking out in this Iron Man suit. One of my favorite scenes in the breakout is when he slams his fist into the wall, the one with the flamethrower, and he's trying to get it out. And then the guy comes up behind him or to the side of him and points the gun right at his face and shoots it, and it just ricochets off the helmet right back in between the guy's eyes. Like, I love that scene just because it shows, this guy who's in captivity actually knows what the hell he's doing.
I love the crudeness of that first suit. Just to kind of match like the third world environment that they're in. And it's just, it looks like this hulking, just, knight coming to save the townsfolk, this behemoth of metal and weapons and ass kicking coming out I love that fursuit. Absolutely love that fursuit.
Even as rough as it was.
I think that's what made me like it so much, because in the back of my head, I'm thinking like I could go to the garage and like I don't really know how to assemble a lot of stuff, but I can make something that looks kind of like that. Probably won't function, 10% is good, but I'll lumber around the neighborhood.
It end up like a Justin Hammer thing. Don't kid yourself.
I will give you $10 if you go put dryer vents on your arms tomorrow and go to work. And when your boss asks you questions, be like,
beep boop bop boop boop. Does not compute. Yeah, I'll do that.
Call me Iron Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Wotan.
It doesn't have the same. It doesn't have the same ring to it though. Iron Kyle. No, I can't do it. Drinking beer. Yeah, we're not gonna.
So when he breaks out, he sees the cache of like weapons, missiles with the Stark name on it. He destroys it and he blasts off. And one of the most iconic scenes for me, which solidified this movie is going to be awesome, in that first, 20 minutes, 30 minutes of the movie, was that huge explosion. And then all of a sudden, classic Iron Man Marvel comic blasting through that explosion after it hit. That was just amazing to me. They find Tony and he makes the big call that as of, right now, we're not making weapons anymore. And that starts the whole downfall. Someone want to take it from here while I get a drink? Like, what do you guys remember from after that part?
Just remember,
you remember who his mentor was?
I'm trying to remember.
Obadiah Stone.
Obadiah, yeah.
Played by
Jeff Bridges. Very, very. He did not get enough credit for what he brought to that role.
Oh, he was awesome.
He made it believable. Do you remember his character in the comic at all?
Vaguely.
So if you remember the comic, he was the guy who stole the technology, the blueprints for the Iron Man armor. And that's what started the armor wars, because it started going around like it was the start of he was the start of it. He wasn't the first.
Yeah, because he was the Ironmonger, right?
Right. Okay. He's the one who created the Ironmonger, which is based off of the Mark 1 suit, basically. And then it just got different, as the comics went on. I don't think I could think of a more perfect villain in this role, because I agree with you. He did not get enough credit. Like when you hear this movie, you think of, Robert Downey Jr. You think, Gwyneth Paltrow was in it. John Favreau. But how many times do you hear? Yeah.
And that's really, people just say that because of all the drama that ended up becoming his recast, I guess.
Right. And we will go into all that too, their listeners, because that's a big part of the Marvel universe. And that's the first and if I remember right, that's the only recast they've done.
Of a major character.
Major, right?
You think when it
Who
was
was the minors? Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Kyle.
I was gonna say, you think when it was done, and Paul Bettany was doing the voice of Jarvis, do you think he had any clue what would happen in the next 12 years with Vision? And because he was the voice of Jarvis in Iron Man.
Mm-hmm. The original Jarvis.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Kat always gets mad at me when we leave Marvel movies or really any comic book movie because I'm always making some comment or whatever. But I remember saying, it's like, if they ever bring Vision in, it's going to be that guy. And I didn't even know who Paul Bettany was. I just said, it's going to be that guy. It's going to be the voice of Jarvis. So I'm a genius, just saying.
Kat, if you're going to listen to this, your husband is a genius. Let it be known. We have decreed. Right. He has been immortalized on our show now. I didn't say that. What I remember Paul Bettany from is Married to Jennifer Connelly. I always got mad at him for that. Because, from Jennifer Connelly from Labyrinth, Sarah's Labyrinth, and then Career Opportunities.
He was
riding that toy horse.
He was in one of my favorite movies ever, A Knight's Tale.
Knight's Tale. I was going to say, that's where I remember him from. Mm-hmm. Who was he? Chaucer?
He was.
Oh, yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He was Chaucer.
Chaucer.
Yeah, I always remember him going, ladies and gentlemen, doing that, just the big speech. That's what I remember him from.
Another cool movie that infused classic rock into the soundtrack, into kind of like how Iron Man did.
All right, I'm going sideways real quick because you brought her up. If they bring back Betty in a future movie with the Hulk, is it going to be Liv, Tyler, or is it going to be Jennifer?
Oh.
Because I'm going with Liv because I'm a hardcore Liv Tyler fan.
Mm-hmm. I love Liv
Empire
Tyler
Records, too. War of the Rings, Aerosmith videos.
Aerosmith. Jersey Girl. If you like Kevin Smith movies.
I do. I just don't like Ben Affleck movies.
No. Kyle loves them.
I mean, different.
That's a good one. I don't know who they would bring in.
If I had to put money on it, it would be Jennifer Connelly because of Paul Bettany. That would be, I would put money on that one, but I would prefer Liv just because, one, it came out of the Edward Norton movie, and then two, I'm just such a
that's why I think it would be Liv, because she was in Phase 1. And the Jennifer Connelly movie was not continuity.
Or good.
Or good. And again, when we get to Hulk, we're going to discuss that one because I think you can ask any comic fan and that movie just would piss you off. Hey, you may love that movie. I'm not making fun of you. I'm just telling you you're wrong.
You're wrong. We're right.
No, let it be known. Chris Sharp is making fun of somebody.
Which is true.
I don't really know that this has ever happened. Maybe other than like Greek week in college.
It's been happening a lot
that one
lately.
week of the year.
That's true too. That's true.
You're an easy target. So
I know.
I can't.
Yeah.
2 weeks you're going to be more Gandalf the Grey than ever. So
that's fine.
Is it?
I never get invited back.
Well, notice his shirt just says Jend. He couldn't afford the ledge. Couldn't get the ledge for it. It's just Jend.
There you go.
I've got my shawarma time one on. So.
That's awesome.
Okay, see, that's amazing. Yes. Yep. We're actually doing a Funko episode too because it's such a big thing.
Me and Tinker collect. We have a huge collection.
Do you really?
Over 500 of just Marvel.
Jeez. Can't let you put all these in the house?
They're in boxes. The autographed ones are like in Tinker's room from the Comic-Con and stuff, but the rest of them are all just up.
Tinker's his son, for reference, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Who's his clone. But yeah, we're going to do a Funko episode. Kyle used to collect Funkos, and then
bad things happen.
We have a friend of the show, Steven, huge Funko collector. And, I've got my certain Funkos that I have. but nowhere near you guys. Like I've got my Ace from One Piece, I've got my Tom Servo, my Crow, and then I've got my combination of Tom Servo and Crow.
It broke my heart when I looked up to see how much my dog meat from Fallout Funko was worth now if it was still in the box, and the 5-year-old wouldn't have got it out and played with it and lost its leg.
How much?
We probably bought it for like 15. It's worth about 80 now. They don't make them anymore. You can get one, but you're going to pay for it.
That's how my Red Skull one is. We found it randomly for like $8, and then it's worth like 500.
Still in the box?
So it's still in the box. Yes, that one got put up early.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
And that's another obsession we'll talk about in a later episode too, is do you take them out of the box or do you not? I'm the kind that there's certain ones I'll take out, but I don't take the majority of mine out of the box.
Yeah, mine stay in the box except like some of the ones we don't collect. Like he'll get some Star Wars ones he likes, but the rest of them are all.
Yeah, the Funkos stay in
And
if I get them again. If I'm going to if I find something that I like, if it's a certain figure or whatever, then I'll take it out of the box. But it's got to be cheap. Like I'll take the cheap
All
stuff
in
out of the box. I don't even want to see it. I don't even want to see it, Chris.
See, well, I'm just showing you. It's still in the box.
We brought it up, but I just can't wait for this craziness to be over and there to be Comic-Cons again. Tinker has been like, when are we going to dress up again? I like, Halloween. He's like, no, for our Comic-Cons. So
see,
we
that's
really
awesome.
miss going to those.
It's great that you have a shared interest with your kid like that.
Right. I feel like it was forced on him, kind of like sports. He's just latched on. So
well, as long as you guys have something you can share, then you can do that. Hold on,
You're making me seasick. Sharp.
Good. That's
the Blair Witch Project.
I'm trying to fix this. Hold on. Okay, so next topic.
Late 1990s with Shaky Cam.
Ah.
All right, so back to Iron Man.
Yeah,
we stopped it when he gets back. He tells everybody that he's not going to do missiles and defense weapons anymore, and that turns Obadiah pretty much against him, which we find out later Obadiah was against him was the reason why he got kidnapped.
Yeah. Right.
So Tony starts working in his lab, starts doing more things on his own. Really trying to piece the rest of the movie together now.
Then right when he came back,
Phil Coulson starts becoming really annoying.
Mm-hmm. Phil Coulson played by Clark Gregg, which I remember when I first saw Phil Coulson, I was like, who is this guy? He's annoying. I don't like him. He quickly became one of my favorite people in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Quickly became one of my favorite, just because he's like, he's not powered, but he's just awesome. So I really, really like him.
Yeah. I liked him a lot.
And this is what kicked off also the beginning of the arc reactor, which is what Tony has embedded in his chest. And if you remember, they said, this was just kind of a joke to please the masses. He's like, this thing it's not possible to have. It's not feasible because it costs so much. And, Tony pointed at his chest and here it is. And that's, again, what started solidifying, okay, maybe they do know what they're doing in this movie now. Everything's starting to come together. And then it becomes the story of Tony building his next iteration of the suits and going to take out all these terrorist cells. And then while trying to fight the war that he has going on within his own company. So, and then that's pretty much the beginning and middle of Iron Man. I mean, what do you guys think? And then the ending of Iron Man. That's where we get introduced to. Was there any other enemies besides the Ironmonger? I can't remember.
I mean, the 10 Rings, the organization, which as soon as they kind of said that, it gave me a hard on thinking that the Mandarin was going to come into play.
Right.
And then they totally shit the bed on that. So
Yep.
That's another story for another time.
Oh, no, because that's
that
actually part of the Easter egg discussion.
Okay.
The Mandarin, he's orange. They call him cuties in the winter, Mandarin oranges.
I can hate you.
So pretty much the Ironmonger comes into play, becomes this huge battle, and of course our boy Tony comes out on top. Here's the middle to the end in 10 words or less. And this is why I want to get into this part. I want to kind of rush this part, is because Marvel is what introduced the end credits to us. You didn't have end credit scenes before Iron Man.
I can't watch any movie now or anything without waiting to the end. Like, it doesn't matter what the movie is. Like, I'm just going to sit here and wait. It could be some random Disney movie. I'm like, no, there could be something like at the end. Like, I got to stay and watch.
Well, you hear some directors like Patty Jenkins from Wonder Woman talk about her disdain for mid credits and end credit scenes, but then ultimately feels like they have to do it.
You have to do it.
That's what happened with Wonder Woman 84. So,
well, I mean, and it's what works.
Yeah,
it keeps us sitting in the seat for the whole thing.
It just tees it up. It gives you that tease that you're like, oh, I can't wait. How am I going to wait 18 months?
Yeah, exactly.
Or 2 years, like we feel like we've been dealing with the whole COVID situation.
Exactly. And again, Iron Man is what started the end and mid-credit scenes. And this is also what started the whole Easter egg hunt for Marvel. Like, can one of you explain what we mean? People, when we say Easter egg, people are going to assume, like the chocolate bunnies and like stuff you hunt for in Easter. What's an Easter egg?
Easter eggs have been around. Easter eggs have been around forever. I think your Easter, like what we think of as Easter eggs now in movies and TV and video games, actually started way back on the Atari. I can't remember what game it was where the really first well-known Easter eggs, because back in the day, you didn't have credits for your developers and your artists and stuff for a video game. So one of the programmers hid his name in one of the near impossible to reach levels. I can't. Was it
from Ready Player One, the one you're talking about?
No, it was.
Wasn't it Qbert?
It wasn't Qbert. It was on Atari.
Or Pac-Man. I thought one of them had something like that too.
Looking at it was.
I love how the youngest person out of the three of us is referencing Atari, Chris.
Yeah, I know.
I played Atari.
I know.
And I'm not that.
Starship
I know.
One.
I'm just saying. You're older than you look.
Oh, hi,
Starship
Ron.
One.
Okay, so that may not have been the one I was thinking of, but so that's what it is. It's just hidden things that you get to either really look for, but in the case of the MCU, it's going to be little nods. It's either going to be just like a fan service nod. It's a different type of fan. We won't go into that one, but it's a fan. Thank you, Chris.
Join Kyle at OnlyFans.
Yeah, for an OnlyFans, but it's and so like what they're talking about, something that would have referenced back to the comics. It may not come up later, but it's just a little nod to know, so the real fans to see. Okay, these guys know what they're talking about. They're going to see if we're paying attention, all the way up to hints of what's to come, foreshadowing and things like that. And just the MCU is full of Easter eggs. And one thing that I've always kind of thought, since we're on the topic of Easter eggs in the mid credits and end credit scenes, I mean, in Hollywood, a sequel's never out of the question, right? Like you're putting a lot of money into a movie, there's always going to be some type of plan for a sequel. But I've always wondered with this, I've wondered about it with Star Wars and different things. Like, was there how far ahead were they thinking when these came out? When Iron Man came out,
Ooh.
were they thinking we're just going to, we're going to be ready for an Iron Man trilogy? trilogy is the way to go. That's how you do most of the movies. Were they really thinking that were they planting the seeds then for the big expansion that they ended up doing, or were they planting the seeds just in case, or were the things that we saw that we thought were seeds being planted just Easter eggs, and then they go back and reference, those to pull forward.
Right.
I'm always kind of in the camp of they had the contingency plan, like, okay, this is going to be successful. We'll be able to do a couple more movies, and you always leave a little bit in here so you can keep going if you want to. I don't think the full thing was laid out probably until the first Avengers movie, when they realized we can just run with this horse until it's dead.
Yeah, I think they give themselves enough mobility where they would love it to end with the Avengers. But if they needed to bring in Cap or Hulk or Black Widow or somebody into the Iron Man trilogy and only get 3 Iron Man movies, they put those Easter eggs in so they can maneuver a couple different ways.
I agree. It's every interview I've ever read, they said, yeah, I mean, here's what we have planned out with all these directors. Here's what I had planned out from the get-go. And it was originally supposed to be like a 5-part or a 3-part or a 4-part. But then, this one didn't do so well, so we had to scrap it. So I think that they have it planned out.
There was another show we were talking about, Chris. You said they kind of did everything in like 3 episode arcs. So if they got
Clone Wars.
Was it Clone Wars?
The Clone Wars television show.
Yeah.
Dave Filoni, Filoni, I can't remember. As you can tell, I'm really bad at last names.
Dave F.
But Dave F., he planned all the Clone Wars episodes, which that will be its own series for us, in 3 parts. So that way, because Cartoon Network was notorious and still is notorious for canceling stuff like right after the end of a season or in the middle of a season. They're just notorious for this. And he said, we've seen what happened to other shows. So we wanted it, each episode was 3 parts. So here's part 1, 2, and 3. And that way they're their own little arc. They can wrap up and it's not dependent on the whole season. That way, if we get canceled, the viewer has a sense of completion. They have a sense of, oh, this is what happened. I'm okay with this. It's not the whole Farscape thing where literally they finished wrapping at the end of season 4 and the sci-fi lawyers came in and said, you're canceled.
That's probably part of the genius of the mid-credit, end-credits things, where you're not leading up to the next thing necessarily in the movie. You may drop little hints here and there, but so the movie.
So what were the mid and the end credits for this one?
For this one?
Oh shit!
This one was. Hold on, I'll tell you.
Was it Fury?
It was Fury at the end, I believe.
The War Machine.
If you guys look at the notes, I have all the Easter eggs in on there too.
I didn't want to cheat, so I didn't read those.
I'm cheating because my memory is horrible.
It's okay.
Nobody's gonna believe I've watched any of this shit. I swear I have. If you go back to our first episode, for me to complete watching all the MCU movies, I had to watch Iron Man, the original, 2008 one, at least 7 times. To stop and restart. I didn't actually finish the entire run of everything until about 4 months ago.
It was Fury. Remember, because at the end he goes, it was Samuel L. Jackson said, I want to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative.
Right.
So it was Fury. That was the Easter egg. Well, and to me, there was really 2 parts to that, because the whole movie, hold on. Let me make sure I don't mess this up. The whole time, Coulson is telling Pepper, I work for this organization, which is
Strategic Homeland. Shit. It's way too long.
Yeah, they changed it in the movies because it should be Strategic Homeland Intervention Enforcement and Logistics Division. Okay. Because in 91, in the comics, it was Strategic Hazard Intervention Espionage Logistics Directorate. So they changed it for the movies, and then at the end, when Pepper said, she started saying, at the end, yeah, we'll get with you on, the strategic, and she goes, no, please just call us SHIELD. I remember just getting goosebumps on that. I go, that's what, because I freely admit this, the whole movie, I didn't put 2 and 2 together on that one. I had no clue they were going in that direction.
Yeah, it took that in either.
So it took me by surprise. But yeah, so the end credit scenes was Nick Fury talking about the Avengers Initiative.
So the Easter eggs I really remember in that one being Cap Shield.
Right.
The Ten Rings reference.
What about Cap Shield? Let's talk about
remember it was like the prototype.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Obviously, you don't really realize that till later, but you just see it and it's, oh, that's Cap Shield.
Right.
But you're like, why the hell does he have it? But
Right. Okay, and then what was your other one? 10 Rings.
The reference to the Ten Rings, because I was like, oh, great, the Mandarin.
Let's
and then
talk about the Mandarin there for a sec.
I mean, the Mandarin, when I think of Tony Stark's villains, that's the main one. That's the guy that was the ultimate. Everybody has their ultimate foil. Cap, it's Red Skull. Hulk, it's Abomination. Fantastic Four, it's Doom. There's just somebody that's synonymous with that hero. And for me, it's the Mandarin, because he was the one always behind the scenes.
Always fucking
brought in the mystical. Tony was the scientific, and the Mandarin was the mystical part of it. So it was just those two colliding.
Right. And
that's something that this Marvel Cinematic Universe is still, like, they try to say everything is science. So that's kind of been the interesting thing.
So why did they call it the 10 Rings?
Because he has I remember right, he has the 10 mystical rings, and each ring does something different.
Right. So that's why. So you all have reference why it's called the 10 Rings organization. And if you look at the back, when they're doing what was scary about this is the big thing when was it Al Qaeda or somewhere in the Middle East, they were capturing, they were taking prisoners and putting them before cameras, reading their demands. This was the exact same scene as that. This was all happening at the same time. That's why it was kind of just eerie. They kind of took what was going on in modern times and put it into there, which is what all good comics do, in my opinion. But if you look in the back, there was 10 rings in that little, wasn't a poster, like little banner, I guess that was behind him. Right. That was the 10 rings.
And that just made me think, okay, so he's funding this. And I think that was kind of what they were alluding to. It just made me hopeful that, oh, great, at some point they're bringing him in.
Right.
And so later on, when I heard Ben Kingsley, and I'm thinking, I was like, oh man, he's an amazing actor. And then that turned into just a total, middle finger to me. So,
it's a middle finger.
So the 10 rings, Cap Shield, the reference to Shield.
Yep.
There was like a billboard or a poster of Fin Fang Foom.
Yep.
I do remember that one. I couldn't remember the name of the dragon, but I did remember. I was like, yeah, that's something. And then I remember looking it up. And then Terrence Howard, when he walks by the War Machine suit and either says something like "next time" or "got to get me one of these," and I can't remember exactly. So those were really the only ones I remember.
Right. So it was in the end credits. So I consider that an end credit thing too. The blueprints for War Machine were in the end credits. Do you need to readjust for a sec?
I have to turn my AirPods died, so I just got to turn the volume down a little bit on my.
Okay. Little did you know that this would last as long as it would. So there's that. And we need to go back and talk about Terrence Howard here after we get done with this part. The ringtone on Tony's cell phone is from the animated series of The Invincible Iron Man. That's
I
one
don't
of
know
the
that I
Easter
ever
eggs.
watched.
Oh, I loved that one. It's all it's on Disney right now. Disney
Yeah, that's
Plus.
what okay. I know T's watched it, a couple episodes of it.
Right. So if you listen to that, listen to the theme song, you'll hear that ringtone if you go back and watch Iron Man. It's Tony's ringtone. If when Tony is fighting the Ironmonger, if you look on the back, the Roxxon Corporation logo is one of the logos on one of the buildings. Roxxon is one of the big thorns in Tony's side in the comics. So that was big. Another Easter egg. It was actually more of a mistake. At the very beginning, when they're talking about Tony Stark and Stain, it reads that Tony takes the reins, but it should be reins like a horse. Or instead, they have it reins like as in a ruler. It's actually a typo. And if you listen to the interviews, they're like, "Yeah, the guy who did this made a mistake on it."
Huh.
So that's in there. One of my favorite Easter eggs is that Iron Man's targeting system, when it locks on, it's the sounds from Space Invaders.
Oh,
So
that's one of my favorite Easter eggs. Kyle, do you know any more of the Easter eggs?
I think you kind of hit all the ones.
There's two more big ones that I think of.
We talked about the end credits, War Machine blueprints. B-Drop hit on Fing Fang Foom.
Look at the very last point I put on there.
Box of Scraps guy, the Sanion's is Ralphie.
Ralphie, Peter Billingsley from A Christmas Story. That's Ralphie.
Oh. Is it more of a cameo?
wow.
Yeah, but it's still kind of an Easter egg.
Yeah.
What a nerd.
Yeah.
Freaking nerd.
Nerd. Okay, now here is probably the biggest Easter egg for comic fans is Nick Fury. Why is Nick Fury so significant from the MCU, from the comics to the MCU? What's the biggest difference?
Oh, you're asking us?
Yes,
I thought
yeah,
you were- I
I'm
thought
sorry.
you were
I'm
leading-
asking you all.
Leading into it.
Well,
so-
I am leading into this, but I'm asking you guys, what's the biggest difference?
From a white guy to an African American?
Yep.
You had the same. Was it the same eye?
I don't know.
I don't think so. That was the other thing I was going to say. I don't think it's the same eye.
It might be different.
I mean, it could just be the haircut.
Yeah, it's the same eye.
It could be the haircut.
It is. Well, is it?
So
Getting
what the
hearing
big
aids
difference
here.
is, you look that up while I'm saying this. They took the Ultimate Comics Nick Fury. In the Ultimate Comics, Nick Fury was black. And they took him versus the old white guy, because you find out Nick Fury's, ancient. I applaud them. I think that this Nick Fury is the only Nick Fury at this point for me. Because I think Samuel L. Jackson was great at it. And I don't know, it was just fun seeing him as Nick Fury.
It was the right move, and I think nobody really, I don't know if anybody could ever pull it off like Samuel L. Jackson does. I think it's like anything with me when there's source material and it's a certain thing, regardless of what the person looked like, hair color, skin color, whatever. If they did it the other way, how much outrage would there be? So that's always my thing. So it just, I don't know. And I don't want to go a totally different way with this. I love it. I love the change.
I know what you're saying. Yep.
But it's just one of those things. That is, when I thought Nick Fury was going to be in movies, that is not what I envisioned. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing, because like I said, Samuel L. Jackson kills it.
So you think they're sitting in this boardroom and they've got their two versions of comic Nick Fury that they're looking at, right? And one guy says, if we go Ultimate Nick Fury, we could probably get Samuel L. Jackson. And then that just like seals it right there. And like, that's because that's all you want. I mean, he freaking kills it in that part. And I can't imagine anybody else as Nick Fury now. Like that's embedded, ingrained in my mind.
He's the Fury.
Yeah, he
What
is.
he is.
It's a perfectly cast deal.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's like I always look at the actor, and this is a different thing, but I'm a huge Jack Reacher person. Like I read all the books and everything. And Jack Reacher's character is, 6'5", 6'6", and a huge monster of a man like The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
In the movies, he's played by Tom Cruise, who's 5'5",
And not a monster of a man.
But his persona and the way he plays that character is exactly what I would have wanted. So it doesn't make a difference to me. And that's the same thing with Samuel L. Jackson to me.
I would agree. Which this is a great segue into casting. Let's talk about Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard, who played Rhodey. James Rhodes?
Yeah.
What did you guys think of him in Iron Man?
Liked him. I mean, I don't have a prior comparison, but great actor. I thought he played the part well.
I thought he did a great job.
I did too. So he is the only actor that I can think of that has been fired from the MCU as a major character. And there's several rumors that went around. Like the biggest rumor was, well, before I say what I think, what have you guys heard why he didn't reprise his role?
I heard that he did not make as much as Robert Downey Jr. There was a beef because he felt like Robert Downey Jr. didn't go to bat for him to get similar money or more money. And that is what ultimately led to the change.
Okay. What have you heard?
I really haven't heard anything. So he was, when you're saying similar money, he was like shooting for similar in that rumor. Is he was shooting for similar money as Robert Downey Jr. got, or just as a like
he figured
equal
he should have made
percentage?
more.
Yeah. Equal revenue, equal rights.
Because of the success of Iron Man.
Yeah, and I think he felt like he knew where it was going to go, and that he would ultimately be a bigger star in other movies. So it should have been more on even par from the get-go, is what I've read.
So that's similar to what I've read. I think he made something like $4 million on Iron Man, and he wanted like $8 million for Iron Man 2 because of the success. But Robert Downey Jr., from what I've heard, wanted more of a cut, so that would have cut into Terrence Howard's cut, because there's only so much money that they have. And then there was also rumors on set that Terrence Howard was very difficult to work with from cast members. So I think it was a combo of all that kind of ultimately led to that recasting choice. But I really like Don Cheadle as Rhodey.
Is it Cheadle or Cheadle?
Cheadle. Fancy? I'm fancy. I like Sharpay or Wutan. That kind of stuff. I think it's Cheadle.
I agree. I think he was great. I just don't see Terrence Howard being a good team player, like how you have to be with all these movies and all these other actors. And I think Mr. Cheadle really fits in through all these. So I think I've heard the difficult to work with thing, and I don't know. I'm not a movie star. I've never worked with a guy, but it just seems like Don, if you will, if I can call you Don, if you're listening,
I'm sure he is
a consummate team player. Just as all the group interviews and stuff I've seen, there's just a lot of camaraderie and stuff like that. So I just think you'd have another issue like you're seeing with what I hear with Brie Larson and how she doesn't exactly fit in with that core group. I think Terrence Howard kind of would have been the same thing.
Which, if Brie Larson isn't fitting in, that's going to be a big problem for Phase 4.
Yep.
So we'll get into that later.
We'll read up on more next.
I think this is actually a good. Yeah, we'll get into that one. So I actually think we should probably end this here. We're like at an hour 30. Like, if it took us this long to get through Iron Man, I'm afraid of what would try to get through the next two. So we will probably shoot for next Sunday again, and we'll start with Incredible Hulk, which I don't think we'll get through as much. I don't think it'll take us this long for Incredible Hulk, personally.
No, I think we can go through
Iron Man is
Incredible Hulk and Iron Man 2 in about the same amount of time. I mean, we were talking about the intro to everything right here, just not just, movie. We were, talking about how the foundation of the MCU and how it got kicked off. So there's a lot to cover there. And
no, there's a ton.
Especially just with just the original. I mean, the original Iron Man just so iconic with setting the stage for everything to come down the road. I don't think we'll spend as much time on another one until we get to the 2012 Avengers.
So, I mean, this is kind of like my wedding vows. I talked a good game on what we'd get through, came up short.
We're still in the honeymoon, buddy.
It's fine. It's fine. Love you, honey. She actually does listen to our podcast, and she claims she loves it, but I told her she's kind of forced to because she sleeps next to me. At least tell me that.
I mean, what she's going to tell you is, you should really hang out with that B-Rob guy more often.
That's exact. Actually, she said, "Why don't you do that?" I said, "Because I'm not cool." We all know that's why I'm on a podcast.
He is handsome and charming. So
handsome.
I mean, you're the main reason why I got involved in so much in college.
Oh, thanks.
I would not say, yeah, the NAB stuff. Yeah, definitely. You're the reason why I got involved as much as I did. So you led me to be as cool as I am. So.
Well, I appreciate that, man.
That's me for a lot of my RBC stuff.
Do you want that in the Cash App? Do you want that in PayPal? What do you want me for that endorsement?
I prefer payment in beers or tacos.
Beers and tacos. You heard that, folks. We are going to set up a GoFundMe account for that.
Right. Let's call it Go Beer Me. And
Go Beer Me. Go Beer Me for tacos.
I think we might be onto something.
So, I actually do want to probably end it here because I know we've all claimed we have lives at least. So let's shoot for next week. We'll film part 2 and 3 of part 1 of phase 1.
Part 2 and 3 of part 1 of phase 1. I think we can.
And this will give me time to get the other 3 movies that we need ready too.
Yeah.
So okay. So do you have time for Nerd Drum? Kyle?
I do. Does B-Rob have
Okay.
to?
Okay.
Yeah, I can do some Nerd Drum tonight.
Okay, let me set that up real quick. You guys talk. You guys talk about a subject real quick. Let me set that up because I forgot to get that set up.
Look how beautiful his camera is, B-Rob.
It is. You guys are so perfect.
I don't know. It's got a great green
This
screen.
is something I've always wanted to do, by the way. So I love it.
Well, dude, I gave you the list of what we have, and it's actually grown since I've shown you. You're more than welcome on any of these that we're doing.
No, there's so much stuff. I mean, I know the gaming stuff is out of my realm, but I mean, pro wrestling, Star Wars, Funko. I mean, I love it. I love it all. So
we're actually going to do that. Brings a good segue too. My wife had a good idea, and I'm not going to tell her that we're taking one of her ideas. Because then she's right. She's always right. She has challenged us to take a nerd subject that we're not familiar with and immerse ourselves for it for the week. And let everyone know, what we find and what we think of it. And I'm like, that's actually a really good idea.
that is a good one.
Like, because then you're out of your comfort zone. And that's, again, what this whole show is about. Like, staying out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Tinker's getting really into Pokemon. It's really, I don't know anything about it.
T asked me, she goes, are you guys going to do a Pokemon episode? I go, are we ever? Because it's over 20 years old. I know a lot about Pokemon. I got to catch them all. I will tell you that. I love Pokemon. To this day, I still watch Pokemon. I'm 40-something, and I still watch Pokemon.
I've never watched a single episode. I just look at all the cards he has.
No suck you in. It's a good kind of cheesy.
Hey man, tell him to keep some of those cards now from the original sets. That's worth some moolah. That's worth some.
Right.
In the words of Star-Lord, that's worth some cheddar cheese. Okay, let's share out this screen, and let's do this part here.
So you listened to episode 1, so you kind of know how the Nerd Drome works, right? You're up. Get a grasp. He has no idea. So.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's go through. We'll do our little spiel real quick. Time on the show we call Nerd Drome. 2 nerds enter, 1 nerd leaves.
A little bit later, the other nerd is going to leave, but he's sad because he lost. So what we're doing is Chris has a randomizer of popular characters from pop culture, nerd culture, whatever. And we're taking the classic who would kick whose ass argument and kind of putting it on its head a little bit. So everything's completely random. We don't know which character we're going to get. We don't know the location that it's going to occur in, and we don't know the activity. So we're going to, go outside the normal realm of a fist fight or sorcerer off or whatever to random activities. I mean, we've had, I think one was like zombie apocalypse survival. One was baking a cake. The baking cake one was Dr. Zoidberg versus Hank Hill in Moe's Bar. And so it's completely random. We don't know who we're going to get. If you get somebody that you just absolutely know nothing about, I mean, you have the option to bullshit your way through it or, tap out, trade, whatever, because we don't want to leave you hanging.
We suggest you bullshit through it, though. That's what makes it fun.
And
I'll do my best.
So so Chris will do the spinning here. We got the wheel that you can see.
Okay. Well, this will be B-Rob's pick first since he is the guest.
Okay. So we'll see who B-Rob gets.
Oh, Chris's choice.
That's rigged.
That is so rigged.
Hey, you know what? Just so you don't think it's rigged, everyone, let's do it again. If it was Kyle, I would know who I'd pick. Okay. B-Rob's got Wonder Woman. Can you work with that?
I can work with that.
Okay. Kyle? Haley Smith from American Dad.
I think I can work with that. The anti-Meg. Okay.
Anti-Meg, pot smoker, hippie. Yep. And I also, no, we can't have 2 of the same. It's got to be separate.
We can't have 2 Wonder Womens.
Unless I had Red Sun Wonder Woman. Blade, the vampire hunter.
Nice. So we have Blade,
Okay.
Haley Smith, and Wonder Woman.
Wow.
And they will be...
And
their
location? The Quickie Mart from The Simpsons.
Nice.
Location is what Kyle and I haven't been using is the location to advantages. If you go back and listen to the past episodes. So location can give you an advantage. Finally, the activity. In a sword. Oh, man.
Crap.
Shit.
Blade and Wonder Woman. I mean,
yeah.
Haley's just going to be in a corner smoking it out. But
she's going to say, winner, chicken dinner.
I can work with this. So I think I went first last time.
You did.
So,
guest goes first. How about guest goes first?
How about somebody who's done this before go first?
Yeah. So
well,
Chris,
if you want to be picky about it, sir, damn it. Okay, so I've got Blade.
Like, this is easy.
I've got Blade. I have the Daywalker. The Daywalker who is half vampire, half human. He got his powers from Deacon Frost when Deacon Frost bit his mother while he was still in the womb. He has all the strengths of the vampires while having none of the weaknesses, minus the hunger. But he has a medicine for that. He's going to go into the Quickie Mart. What gives Blade an advantage, especially during a sword fight, is the man carries a sword on his back. He is well versed with swords. He's versed with any sort of weapon. You give him a sword, he's going to take out anyone, a vampire, a demigod, god, you name it. Blade will do it. He's able to walk in the sunlight. He can use anything in the Quickie Mart to his advantage. What gives Blade the biggest advantage is that he is from our time period. He knows all about Quickie Marts. He knows about quick trips, get and goes. He knows all about what to use, what you can't use, because he can go kill a vampire. He can go and get a Slurpee. He may want one. He may go into the Quickie Mart and use the 2-month-old hot dogs that Apu has in there to his advantage by throwing it at Wonder Woman and Haley. He could throw it at Haley. She'd be so stoned and hungry, she would run out after it. She'd leave the Quickie Mart. Wonder Woman might put up a good fight against him, but Blade's used to killing all sorts of creatures. So that's why I think he could use the Quickie Mart to his advantage.
Kyle?
Haley?
So,
winner, wheat for dinner.
Haley is going to be, first off, totally at home in Quickie Mart. She's going to have the munchies when she shows up to this fight because Haley's either always high or always about to get high or had just got high. And so she's going to be able to lean on the power of the snack aisle to really fuel her fight, to really keep her going. She's going to get some Funyuns. She's going to get some Slim Jims. She's going to get the Slurpee machine. So she's going to be at full strength when all this happens. Haley is also extremely progressive. She's very forward-thinking, type of person. So I don't think that she will actually fight Wonder Woman, but they will bond, right? They will form this girl power duo to take down the man that's trying to cut them down and assert his male dominance. That's going to be Haley's. Haley is going to stand out against male vampire sword aggression. She won't even need a sword. She has Wonder Woman on her side to, take the sword from Blade. There's 2 swords. Haley wins with the buff from Wonder Woman.
Wait. So you're saying that Haley's going to take down Wonder Woman with Funyuns?
No, I'm saying Haley is going to convince Wonder Woman to join her in the fight because they are both
With
strong
Funyuns.
women that are going to lift each other up in this battle against the vampire sword man.
B-Rob?
A tough act to follow.
Mm-hmm. There's your bullshittery.
Well, I do believe that Diana, the Amazon warrior princess, they're a founding member of the Justice League. I don't think the Quickie Mart's ever quite seen a female of this nature or as hot as her. So there's her advantage right there, walking into, the center of activity in Springfield. But I think anyway, Abu knows everything, so everybody comes through there. And that's a reason why I think her lasso of truth, her sword, her shield, I really don't think she's going to need any of it. I think her and Haley will form a team. Wonder Woman's known to love her ice cream, so I imagine she's going to love a good Slurpee too. So I don't know if the Funyuns are going to come into play. But I do feel like she could use her lasso of truth if necessary on Blade to make him see the error of his ways of wanting to slice her down, and think that there is there's got to be several thugs that are around there trying to hold up Abu that Blade's skills would be better used against. So I think she would push him that way and get him distracted. Haley's going to be stoned and in a corner eating Funyuns, and probably making out with Nelson. If I had to guess, that looks like her type. And then
Probably.
it's going to be Wonder Woman's show from that point.
Okay, why did it have to be Wonder Woman in a sword fight?
Why did it have to be Blade in a sword fight?
And you got Haley Smith.
Better than Meg.
All right, we're gonna better than Meg. We're gonna post in the Discord who won. Who won?
Mm-hmm. We'll post
Have
link that you guys vote on it.
So now, B-Rob, what are you watching or reading this week?
So I'm finishing up the Ahsoka novel.
Ooh.
I just found that. I read most of it on a plane last week. I got a couple of chapters left.
How is it?
It was great. It's a really good. It just talks about her time after, right after the Great Jedi Purge, where she's really trying to find out who she is. Right, it's kind of right before she becomes Fulcrum in Rebels.
Okay, so it's that
So
in
she
between.
she's had a couple secret meetings with Bail Organa, and then he's trying to recruit her to the rebellion. So I haven't got to whether she's fully accepted it yet, but
That's awesome.
yeah. So I'm reading that, and then I'm going to start another Lucas Davenport novel, which is he's kind of like a Jack Reacher type guy. Just not a series that I found. So that's kind of what I'm reading right now.
Right on. Kyle?
Well, what I have started reading today and going through, if you guys happen to catch that shit show of a D&D session last night where we almost got TPK.
Everyone died.
So I'm diving into the Dungeons and Dragons the player's handbook because I feel like I really need to be prepared to make another character because I don't think Borko's going to live much longer. And so I've really have actually been going through classes and races and reading a lot in that to try to maybe make a better balance or something better for the group because it sounds like death is inevitable for several of us. And so I've been getting back into that and got an idea for a new character that at the very least to have Radiant the Wings in case Borko does bite the dust and I have to pull somebody out of the shadows to fill in that slot. And so that's kind of my reading and what I learned. I'm kind of trying to learn some different classes and things. Learn that apparently the Dark Elf is not played a lot, or is recommended to only be played by more experienced type players due to some racial weaknesses and things like that. So it's been interesting. I kind of wish I would have dove into it a little bit more before I made my character and would have been able to make him a little bit more balanced instead of weak little dwarf that he is.
So what I'm watching or reading this week is Attack on Titan, the newest Attack on Titan season. The new episode came out today, and I actually watched it just before we got it around dinner, just before we got on this podcast. And man, it is getting good. Like it started off really slow, but it is getting really, really good. Like this is probably some of the best fight scenes I've seen in the whole series. So
nice.
It's just really cool. Yeah, it's just really cool.
I'm ready to get on that.
B-Rob, what have you learned this week? Have you learned anything this week? This past week? It can be anything. If you haven't, you can say no.
I've learned a lot about Kyle that I didn't know, honestly, just from listening to the podcast while I was traveling, and the first episode, and then just on here, I feel like like you said, we know people for, 15, 20 years, and then there are just aspects that you don't ever really know. So I have learned a lot about a good friend of mine. So
cool.
That goes the other way too. I was not expecting you to be. I almost said that really wrong. It's not what I was expecting at all, B-Rob.
What were you gonna say there, jerkwad? Meat bag.
I lost my train of thought.
Okay, so that's what Kyle learned this week. Apparently, was same thing. What I learned from this week was I forgot what my first thing was, but in doing all the research for this was how much I loved Iron Man, the first Iron Man again, after rewatching it this week, and then just all the damn Easter eggs that they put in there just to set up and how it just set up everything. And that's what I love about it. So that's what I learned. Not as profound as B-Rob's or intern Kyle's with his END shirt. If you watch the YouTube clip, you'll see what we're talking about. He's just an egend. He's a gend again. with that, we will pick up. We'll record again next week for part 2 of the MCU Phase 1. Hopefully, we'll get through more than one movie. I'm not going to bet on it, but
if we don't, it's okay.
damn it, I had a good time doing this. So
Yeah,
this is always fun. Gentlemen, thank you for taking time out of your Sunday to do this with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I had a great time.
Thank you guys for listening.
So, well, with that,
for the next one.
this has been Every Man's Guide to Nerddom. I'm Chris.
I'm Kyle. And we'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.
Nerd Corker, rise up. It could get elevated. Nerd